Continuing our discussion of National Child Abuse Prevention Month, we'd like to welcome Steve Simpson, media veteran and nationally recognized award-winning child advocate and author. Well, thank you for joining us. And as we continue this conversation, you've been very candid in the past about your own personal experiences. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what growing up for you was like and what some of the abuse you sustained as a child, how that kind of shaped who you are today.
Sure. Well, I mean, I was both physically and verbally abused as a child. And I always stressed, to me, the verbal abuse took even more damage than the physical abuse. The physical abuse, of course, was damaging. It was scary. You never knew when he was going to start, when he was going to end. However, the verbal abuse, as far as affecting my childhood, destroyed my self-esteem as a young,
Sure.
From growing up, how many times can you hear all these horrible things about yourself before you believe them? I used to call myself a Z student, the opposite of an A student. My father was an alcoholic, and most child abuse is because of alcoholism or drug abuse in a parent. And that was the case with me. And fortunately for me, short version is I did get involved in self-help groups, protective services got involved. I was in foster care for a little while until my mom got her own place, separated from my father, and went from a Z student to an A student. Because I realized all the things he said about me were false.
Right.
One thing abusers tend to do at any age, just, is they convince their victims it's their fault they're being abused.
Yeah.
If you were a better person, better student, didn't do this, didn't say that, if you were a different personality, maybe we had a daughter instead of a son or a different son. And once I got over that and realized that an abuser doesn't abuse you because of anything you've done. There's nothing, it's because they're an abuser. And no matter who was their child, they would made them their victim.
But it was so bad that you attempted suicide at such a young age.
That was from hopelessness. And like I said earlier, that was from the verbal abuse. I mean, how long can a child keep hearing hopeless things before they say, then I'm done? If my life's never going to get better, why am I going on?
Yeah.
And I was at 11. Fortunately for me, I realized that, again, it was just his own view of things. And one thing I've learned for those who are watching this program, that I've dealt with, from my volunteer work, a lot of individuals who've been suicidal like myself over the years. And things will always get better. All of them will tell you, all of us that have survived it will all tell you 100% of the time, not 99, but 100%, things always get better.
And what was something that helped you come out of that? Because clearly you were placed into a much healthier situation, but you also had an outlet for yourself that helped to kind of heal some of those wounds. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, well, I joined a self-help group where everyone in that group was another victim like myself.
Yeah.
Most had parents that are alcoholics. And I realized, when you realize you're just not the only one, because every child thinks they really are the only one who's in the problem. And that's why they keep it so secret. They never talk about it. And when I realized that, no, it's not me, and this is the common denominator. I mean, 1 out of every 5 children today is a child of an alcoholic. Every classroom you look at, no matter where that school is, what demographic it's in, probably about a 5th or a 4th of the class falls into that category.
But you turned to writing and books as a way of, as an outlet for you, isn't that right?
Yeah, that was my escape. My escape was my writing. Even some of the books I have now that are out were ideas I had when I was a boy. when I was fantasizing and escaping. Of course, now I've also, on the nonfiction part, I write about things to help other young people.
What do you hope, or what did you hope someone would do to intervene at the time that, as we look at children today, that we should be looking out for, doing, or intervening to help them out of their situations?
The sad part is that most abuse cases, there are relatives of the family know what's going on. Either they're on denial, or they lessen it, or they don't want to get involved, or, well, I don't want to call the police on them. And they almost tend to protect the adult over the child indirectly. And I always say, don't wait, to your point, that maybe that child commits suicide. Because you didn't, and by the way, I was always laughing, having a great time. So you can't judge that by someone's thinking of suicide. And by the way, A students could be also thinking of suicide.
Sure,
it doesn't have to be. So I would say, before something, or the child runs away, or very common, usually children live abuse, hang out with older friends. Why is that always? Because they're getting out of the house. Girls date older guys. Why? They have a car, they have an apartment.
Yeah.
So before all this goes down, I would say be a hero and get involved, whether it's calling protective services yourself, contacting the school, because most schools have a lot of resources. The school social worker usually knows exactly what to do. Or usually there's the non-abusive parent, the codependent.
Yeah.
Maybe have to sit with them and say, we'll do this with you, but one way or the other, this has to stop with this child. If you suspect there's abuse in your niece or your nephew or your grandchildren, there probably is.
Excellent advice. You've also created the Teenage and Young Adult Survival Handbook, and you also have 4 adventure novels, of course, wherever books are sold. I want to thank you so much, Steve Simpson, for joining us today and sharing your story with us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We're back after this.